My friends, good day. When you travel around the world, you will see competent and incompetent states. You can place them anywhere you want on the spectrum of competence. But in Europe, it's very particular because it's the only continent in the world where you see states that are at war with their own population. These are states that systematically make decisions that go against the interests of their population. You don't see that elsewhere. It's a defining characteristic of European politics. Today, we're going to talk about Spain. In Spain, there are 149 million, and the unemployment rate is about 10% so much higher than the average unemployment rate in the European Union, which is around 6%. Well, Spain, through its minister, Mr. Sanchez, who is also a socialist minister in the minority, is going to regularize. We were told in January about 500,000 people. So he is going to take 500,000 illegal immigrants and then regularize them with a stroke of a pen. The decision, if you will, was made by Mr. Sanchez. It didn't go through Parliament because it would not have been accepted, especially since he is in the minority. And so, what you have to do in these cases, it's a classic in Europe, is to try to bypass the will of the people. And so they got a royal decree. By the way, I know that I'm followed by quite a few French people who are royalists. Look, if today, for example, France was still a kingdom, well, you would have a king who would take care of his worldly affairs and his castles. And then Macron would have been the prime minister. And then you would have been in exactly the same situation. So what happens is that the decree applies to 500,000 people. But today we see, and that was to be expected, we see an increase in the number. That means we went from 500,000 to almost 1.5 million today. And probably once it's carried out, we'll realize that it was maybe 2 or 3 million people. So the Spanish population is going to increase sharply by more than 2%, maybe even 3% all at once. And that makes it very difficult to have public services, to have hospitals, to have a system of even the roads, even all of that can't absorb such a huge population shock. But I think that's not something that was considered by the socialist government. Also, what you have to see is that it's the most generous system on the planet. Why? You just have to reside illegally, to be present illegally on Spanish soil for only 5 months to have the right to regularization. Even the United Kingdom, which is a country that went down the same crazy path as Spain, by the way, even the United Kingdom, where illegal residence in the country only gives you the right to regularization after 20 years. And in the majority of countries where there is a regularization process, well, it only kicks in after 10, 15, 20 years or even more. But in Spain, I'm talking about only 5 months. So, of course, they'll tell you, yes, but what we want is to reduce illegal immigration. But actually, this won't reduce illegal immigration, it will increase it. Why? Because once they regularize this illegal immigration, well, immediately others will come. Because now the reputation on the immigration market, Spain's reputation, is that you go there and then sooner or later they do mass regularizations anyway. If they've done it now, they might do it again in 6 months or next year. It doesn't matter. There will be people willing to try their luck. So what's going to happen is that we're going to take in 1.5 million illegal immigrants in Spain. We're going to legalize them. And the moment we legalize them, we'll have another 1.5 million or 2 million or 3 million who came illegally hoping to take advantage of this system, which is something astonishing. Another thing, when a person is legalized, automatically through European laws, they have the right to family reunification. So the person will be able to bring their family from their country. So this will actually create this increase or this surge. When you legalize a person, it's not just one person. It's, depending on the case, 2, 3, 4. So that's why there's this multiplying factor. Actually, what's quite shocking, when I look at my life in Europe, I also came from Africa. I'm not better than anyone else. But the difference is that I respected the law in Europe. I respected the law of the European countries. So I went through the proper channels. I filled out forms. I paid lawyers. I paid fees. The problem is you realize that if you do that, you're just being stupid because European countries favor and prefer people who don't respect their laws. And you see that at every level. And I can tell you that my own immigration experience was hard, difficult, and laborious in Europe because I respected the system, because I said, here I am arriving in a country, I'm going to respect their laws. And that you can do elsewhere. You can do it in the United States or in China or elsewhere, but it's not something that's going to work for you in Europe. So we have this idea of regularization, which is similar to what Merkel did in 2015. You see, Merkel, she had opened Germany's borders wide, and so she welcomed everyone who was willing to make the effort to come. We call them Merkel migrants. Today, we're going to look at the Sanchez migrants in Spain. And then, of course, since all the countries are interconnected by the Schengen area, there's not really any border control inside. The United Kingdom is receiving boats almost every day. They're waiting with buses on the beaches. So, literally, today we're wondering what Europe is doing. If you look, I might have a theory that I'll share with you. Of course, it's not something I can prove or demonstrate to you, but I have the feeling that they're watching Donald Trump in the United States. And whatever they do the opposite in an extreme and zealous way to show that they're better than him. That means we're in a kind of politics that wants to display its virtue, that wants to show its moral superiority by saying we're better. So when we look at the United States, they had these stories with the police called ICE, and there were sometimes serious incidents, sometimes ending in violence and all that. Well, what happened is that in Europe, we want to show that we are superior. So, what we do is communicate with international migration networks, human trafficking networks, migrant networks to tell them, listen, come to us. Look, we are much more generous. Why bother with Trump? Look, we are nice. Come see us. And actually, I'll tell you something because you know me, regardless of the speech I've just given up to this video. I'm part of the left, the radical left, the historical left. I see that we're using immigration once again, hiding behind good intentions, but the goal is to put pressure on wages. It's a classic. The goal is to bring in a reserve army for capital. Quite simply, what we're doing is, when there's production in a country, well, that production effort will absorb the existing workforce. But there will come a time when wages will have to be raised. So, to avoid raising wages and to break employees' bargaining power, what needs to be done is to bring in competition. This competition doesn't actually need to take their jobs, not really, but just being there, it's like a threat to say, well, you can't negotiate. Your bargaining power is completely blocked. Because we want you to be a docile worker, we want you to be obedient, we want you to be zealous and not to bother us or ask for higher wages or better working conditions. Because otherwise, there are people who will come and replace you. It's that simple. Okay? Either be quiet or I'll bring in others to replace you immediately. That's the type of relationship the financial powers want with workers. And that's why you see this obsession with bringing in mass immigration. It's precisely to create unfavorable conditions for workers. And this isn't something new. It's not something that started today. And Spain didn't invent this. But unfortunately, it's something that keeps happening. That's it. In any case, we'll see what happens. It's something, of course, the Spanish have the right to do what they want with their country. I'm just commenting on their politics. As an analyst, I find it shocking. If tomorrow they want to bring in 10 or 15 or 20 million, they have the right. I have no say in what they do, but in my opinion, it's a decision that will age badly. It's a decision that won't be in the interests of Spain and the Spanish people. It's something they're going to regret. And I think, unfortunately, it won't take very long. That's it. We'll watch. If there's any news, I'll come back to comment. Thank you for watching this video until the end. See you in the next one. See you very soon.